What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Syck Flicks with Dylan and Skip. Here with Dylan Farr, I am your host and friend, Skip Marazi, on the Behind the Scenes podcast for Cox in Space. Welcome, Dylan.
Hey, I'm Dylan Farr, your autistic spitfire of Ypsilanti, Michigan.
He
I'm excited to see this movie because this movie left me feeling some type of way afterwards, and I was just like,
it definitely makes you feel some type of way, and that's actually one of the reasons that I love this film so much. Is that I love that it doesn't. It's not meaningless. You know what I mean? Like this movie does not. You don't walk away from it and you're like, okay, that's a film that happened. It does something to you, much like I feel like a good book will. The movie we're reviewing is from 1967. It's a 7.7 on IMDb, and it is Cool Hand Luke. And to me, it is one of the greatest movies. If you had to get me in a corner and point a gun at me and all that, I'd have to say this is definitely in my top three films of all time. And for this reason is that you don't walk away from this movie without feeling some type of way about it. So. Um, Now, depending on what type of way is a whole different question, but yeah, it definitely makes you feel something. Um, you messaged me, I think, straight away afterwards. You're like, "Man, I am so depressed right now."
I really was. I
Yeah,
really was.
yeah.
I still kind of am.
This movie I think is fantastic because it's you don't get real good tragedies that also have like an upbeat message to them, in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons I think Cool Hand Luke is so good. It's rich for one. There's like none of the scenes are unnecessary. The characters are all they're all pretty well defined, and then it gets you. It does not give you a happy ending, but I think it has a really positive message in it, even though you don't get the happy ending. Did you see that it's a Jesus story, basically?
Oh my God, he was Jesus
He's
of the
Jesus. Yeah,
prison.
he's Jesus. I mean, and that's the thing. Like that's the message of this movie. We'll get into all the little pieces and whatnot. But yeah, if you're gonna be the type of person who changes the world, you're gonna be frustrated to the point, and there's gonna be people who are gonna want to kill you. Like that's the essence of this movie. And but you're that it also means that you're gonna be a huge inspiration to all the non-world changers or the people who want to be more of that type. And so yeah, that's again one of the reasons that is so powerful. Like a lot of movies don't have a central idea behind it that is so clearly defined, in my opinion. But that. Um, Sorry, so we're giving it that opening. Give me some more of your thoughts about Cool Hand Luke before we get into the specifics of the story.
It kind of had a longest yard feel without the comedy aspect.
Okay, that's interesting.
Um,
I don't think I'm familiar with The Longest Yard.
Adam Sandler remade it in the 2000s. It's a football movie,
Okay, that's kind of what I was
but
thinking
it
it sounded like.
starred Burt Reynolds originally, and it was like every time I see the chain gang in this, I think of the prisoners in the longest yard.
Interesting. Okay, so I was thinking about the Adam Sandler one because that's what I'd seen. It's Chris Rock and Adam Sandler from 2006. But you're talking about there's also the 1962 Burt Reynolds film. And so wait, so why does it? What's the comparison between the two of those?
It has that style of film, like just looking at the movie itself and just the way everything is. It just holds that feel to it of, oh, this is, it's almost like they're in another world, another time. And yes, I know I'm saying that about an old movie, but
Yeah, for sure.
when you take someone and strip them of basically every human dignity that they have,
Hmm.
it changes the way they're portrayed.
Yeah,
Like you kind of look differently, and it was one of those movies that really made me look differently at it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that in the context of this movie, but you are 100% correct, in that you get to see a person's character when you see how they behave when they've got nothing going for them, right? Like when these guys are in this chain gang, you get to see kind of what raw humanity looks like. Is that what you're getting at? And that's the same thing with the football movie.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I gotcha. When all they have is each other, that they really have to just depend on each other. Now, one of the things that's really interesting to me about this movie is I saw it years and years ago. I think in the early 2000s is when I first came across Cool Hand Luke, and watched it. And it was actually one of the most quoted movies. And when I was in rehab, in the later, I think it was like in 2018, in the early the 2020s, somewhere thereabouts. Was that people, they had that same mentality, but I think it's for that same reason that you're saying, is because we're in this position where people in this year-long rehab, they had nothing except for who they were. No, everybody is equal status there. Nobody has any money or anything like that. This is all just who you are as a person, and that's kind of why it was working. Because you have to begin to deal with yourself. You don't have all the niceties of your social community, your family. All the wealth that people could have or not have. Everybody came in kind of equal. Um, so
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like back to a state of nature almost.
yeah, right, yeah.
Is what you're looking at is a state of nature. Like, sorry, I need to get the definition of state of nature because this is something.
I've
It
never
was
heard that phrase before. But yeah, but like in like in the natural state, or like people at their rawest, right?
in ethics. Um, the term state of nature describes the way of life that exists before humans organize themselves into societies or civilizations.
Okay, fair,
And
fair.
it really feels that way because you have the people that are higher up, with their power doing what they do, and the little guys kind of being trampled on.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that's interesting, they pointed out early. We'll get into it when we get into the specifics of the plot. But one of the things that is specifically happening is there's this set of hierarchy that sets up. You've got the guy at the very top. The man with no eyes, and then you have the guy who kind of runs the prison. He can be real nice, or he can be a real son of a bitch. You got the bosses who are underneath him, and then you've got the guys who are inside the prison, same as everyone else, and there's still a hierarchy that gets established inside of there. Um,
Usually by how many eggs you can eat.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting, and that's the thing about Luke. There's more to his story, that is like all subtextual and stuff like that. And again, we'll get into it. But for me, like the reason he resonates with me as a character so much, and this is why, like to me, it's one of the films I watch like every year at least, um, is because he like strikes me as someone who's like neurodivergent, because he doesn't really like he gets like how the rules are supposed to work, but he also understands that like it's all made up bullshit, right? Like all hierarchy is like just like humans bossing each other around. And I think a lot of like neurotypical people, they buy into that because hierarchy kind of is everything. But like a lot of neurodivergent people, like they look at it and be like these rules don't make sense. Just because somebody has a title doesn't make them any less human than me, right? And that's kind of like his problem in the world, and also what makes him such a cool guy for other people to be around is that he just like the situation that he's in doesn't matter, right? Like regardless of whether he's in the army or if he's homeless on the streets or if he's in this chain gang, it's like he's gonna be Luke wherever he's at. Um, and I resonate with that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like no matter where I am or no matter what I've done, I've always felt like the same. Like I'm just like, well, this is me dealing with these people and these sets of circumstances. We're all humans at the end of the day who put on our pant leg one, our pants one leg at a time, and are just trying to survive until we die, right? Uh,
Like at the end of the day, it's kind of like when I was in the mental hospital. All I had was Dylan. There was
Right.
nothing else. They take away everything. They take away your cell phone. They take away everything. And the only thing that's left there that you're able to deal with is Dylan. And they do that on purpose.
Yeah, no,
Because they're
100%. But then
trying to
also
format
that's the thing that's
things.
always ever existed, right? Like I mean it's never been you. This idea that there is, these other things. And for me like it's always been real confusing just like trying to understand like why people think that they've got rank or something like that just because they have a title or they've been in a place longer or whatever it is, right? Or I'm just like what? Like you're here same as me. Like you have the same worries, doubts and fears same as me. We're just trying to, get to the next breath basically. I don't know, for you. Because I'm sure the same thing, hierarchy doesn't make a lot of sense to you. Is that true?
No, I don't care for. Well, I understand hierarchy.
Okay.
Like if you have money, you're higher on the food chain.
Yeah, yeah,
If
exactly.
you
Or
if you
if you're the
have
boss,
if you
right?
have status, wealth, or something, you're higher on the food chain.
Yeah, and I get it in that
That's
way.
where there is a very clear hierarchy of people, and I'm like, I don't know if I agree with this, but
Yeah, but that's the
okay.
point right there, right? Like I'm like, yeah, I see that, like you do claim this status, but then also I'm like, but we can both recognize that's false, right? Like y'all just making that up. Those are just words that you applied to yourself to say that you have something. That's what I mean, like don't understand it. Like I do recognize that such a thing exists. The person who has more money is better off because they can buy more things. But like I'm also like, but that doesn't change who you are. That doesn't like stop you from being less human or more human in any kind of way.
I know. Sorry, I'm multitasking here.
Uh,
The hierarchy doesn't work a lot of the time when it comes to people trying to set up their own hierarchies.
right,
If
right,
there is a if there is a system in place, like the hierarchy for the prison is understandable because it's a prison.
right.
The hierarchy for a mental hospital is understandable because you're a patient, they're your nurses, then you have your doctors.
Right. And I think,
It's an understandable hierarchy.
yeah, it's
But
understandable.
when you have a group that just tries to start their own hierarchy, that's where dissent comes in because everyone wants to be on top at that point.
Right. Well, I
Everyone
think it's
wants
the
to be
thing
the top of the line.
that, and he points it out too in the movie too. Just because you're like, you're in charge of something doesn't make you more right about something, or doesn't mean that you have like, you're smarter than anyone else, or that you've got the correct opinion about things just because you're the top dog. And that's the thing that's always like thrown me is like, yeah, I've got respect to the person who has made the money. I've got respect to the person who has been there longer. I've got respect to the boss who's in charge, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know everything, right? There's a limited amount of things that they could
Right.
know. There's a limited amount of experience that they could have, right? And that's where I'm like, yeah, like, they're just kind of regular people.
It's one of those things. At the end of the day, we're all just people.
Right.
People love people, so you and I forgot the lyrics for Depeche Mode.
That,
Jesus Christ, there's going to be a bunch of goth emo people there like,
right.
I forgot the lyrics of Depeche Mode.
Yeah, so if you do want to flame us about not knowing the words about Depeche Mode, you can. Also, I forgot to mention, if you want to figure out, if you want to see what we're up to on Cox and Space, you can always check us out at coxandspace.com. Right now, we're watching a replay of an episode of Jack drawing the final panels of Cox and Space, but you can actually see the final panels in motion up on our website with the dialogue added by all of the characters, Kate being one of them, who has been joining us in the audience for this show. So check us out there. Also, comment on the YouTube video if you're interested in any of the things that we're talking about, or if you have any additional commentary that you would like to. Yeah, Dylan, you ready to get into this review?
Yes. I am ready.
Sweet. So it starts in such a great way because it really sets up from the very first shot what's about to happen with the rest of the story. And that's that Luke is in violation. And that's the first shot that we see is that the parking meter it just like jumps up and it says violation. We're not even sure what is happening in the beginning of this film. It's just that we see this word violation and it keeps popping up on screen with the music going dun and then we hear this grinding and this cutting, and we're not even sure who's doing it. But then you see this parking meter fall to the ground, and we finally get to see Paul Newman as he picks it up. The interesting thing to me about this shot is that he doesn't pick up the parking meter to get like you would think that you would he's not robbing it. He actually just picks it up and kind of sets it to the side and he moves on to the next one. So you watch him and you have to be like you're confused by his actions that you don't understand. And I love that this sets up who Luke is that he's doing this thing that only entertains himself and has no other purpose to it. And this is the opening scene. This is what I think is great about this movie is there's no lost pieces or there's no unnecessary pieces. And for this is a great example of it. He's just slowly doing his thing, grinding and cutting. He finally sits down hard. He has a bottle opener around his neck. He opens his bottle and he gets this light shining on his face. And the first line of dialogue that we get in this film is, "What are you doing there, fella?" Which is the like quintessential question that's given to Luke. What are you even doing among these people? And then he just smiles and he says something kind of like nonsense, and then he goes, "You gotta come with us." Um, and I love it. Like a perfect way to set up a character, in my opinion. A lot of the times you'll see an introduction scene that may introduce the plot. It might introduce like a concept of the movie, but I don't think I've seen a movie that so clearly sets up like who this guy is as a person. In this the parking meter the scene.
I think it sets him up perfectly. But I still want to know how the hell did he get the parking meters off? Like, what kind of wrench was he using?
So he's using a pipe cutter, which is a tool. It's got like a blade on it, and then you crank it down, and then you do a little cut, and then you crank it down a little further, and you do a little cut. Actually, if anyone's interested in cutting down flock cameras, this is a fantastic tool to use to cut those things down too. It takes a little while, but it's useful. Uh, so yeah, not to say you should. I'm not recommending that you should. I'm just saying that it's a useful tool if you were desiring to do that. The mass surveillance system that's being set up across America. Quietly, they're hoping so that we're falling more and more under a dystopian police state. But yeah, so yeah, that's the tool that he's using is a pipe cutter. And they'll use them in all sorts of manufacturing jobs or pipe fitting or anything like that. It's a pretty standard tool, and it's really basic. You just put pressure on the pipe, and then you cut in a circle and make sure it's even, and then you sink it in deeper until you finally get to the point. The thing about this shot with him is that you see that he's done a whole bunch of meters, and if you know anything about pipe cutting, it takes fucking forever. So you know that he's been at it for a minute. Like I think there's like maybe half a dozen that you see in the shot before he moves on to the next one. Like the thing falls off and he moves on to the next one. So he's probably been there, I don't know, 90 minutes or a couple of hours just moving one parking meter to the next. Um, so that's the tool that he's using. Um, and then we cut to the opposing force, right? Is that we get to see the road crew, and this happens in Mississippi, is the place that the story takes place, and we get to see that like every every move that they make has to be approved by these bosses. Right after we get the dialogue from Luke, and you better come with us. We got this taking it off here, boss. Wiping it off here, boss. drinking it up here, boss. That they have absolutely no free will. If they want to take off their shirt, if they want to wipe their glasses, if they need a drink, there's absolutely no freedom. And so it's just like really high contrast. This guy who does things because he wants to, and meets this force that needs to control every breath they're taking, basically. Again, as far as like story dynamics, to me, it's the most dynamic you can possibly get. Right? It's the unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Like they're setting up those two forces like immediately, which I just think is it makes it really really clear, and they don't spell it out for you. They don't be like, this is here we meet a man who cannot be stopped. He is about to hit a wall that, that cannot be moved. But they do it in a way that they just set up the social dynamics, and then they let you kind of like mull over those possibilities and how it works.
I am gonna say one thing.
Yeah.
They could have done a better job making Luke look unique from everyone else.
Uh, in what way? I mean, what's your thought with that?
His hairstyle, or even just like, because I lost track of him once or twice in the movie.
I got you. Okay. Paul Newman's baby blue eyes didn't stand out to you.
He looks very generic. He looks very generic.
Yeah, I think one
So
of the
maybe
things
that's the point.
I think one of the things that you're mentioning is how this is a very like white cast of like all kind of like the same build of dude, and it might have something to do with more like who they're casting into Hollywood at that time than anything else. But that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that as far as I think that like there is some times where I've confused like through some watch throughs where I confused some of the other characters, like the side characters taking an action or another person taking an action, because to me they're all kind of a blur. But it's like Harry Dean Stanton, the guy who plays Dragline, and Paul Newman that are just really distinct characters to me. So I haven't had that issue, but yeah, I see what you mean. They're all like they're kind of all real tan. They all kind of really have the same build, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit taller. Um, yeah, maybe Bob Beluga is the other one who that you don't confuse because he gets a name right off the bat. Um, They also introduced this thing that right away, as soon as the car is driving down the road, because there's a car that's coming in, and they make a bet on how many people are inside that car, how many new people are joining the prison, and so what they do is you get the unstoppable force, the immovable object, and then this idea of gambling that there's one thing that they do for entertainment, and they will literally bet on anything, and that kind of sets up like the dynamic of the story. That they don't really care what happens to people as long as it makes their lives a little bit more interesting than the drudgery that they have to do. Right?
Right.
Uh,
Like they were literally just like, oh yeah, fresh meat. Look at how many pieces we're getting here.
yeah, in some jail movies or prison
Did you
movies,
notice? Did you notice how they made a rule no grab ass?
yeah, that is they make sure that that's really clear. Um, And then also we get the big bad in this initial shot too, where we meet the man with no eyes, whose name is Godfrey, which is that's definitely symbolic. It comes out later how symbolic it is, but but yeah, that's so we get this close up of this guy wearing these mirrored glasses, and he's the one who's carrying the gun. He's the one who's over in charge of everything, and he doesn't speak at any point throughout the movie, which I think is a really fun character. He's just like super sinister. Um,
Not so gets his ass beat at the end.
I appreciate that, and then he only kind of does, but yeah, you also notice that there's a very specific shot, and we'll get to it. We'll probably be wrapping up at that time, but like there's a very specific shot that we meet the guy with the man with no eyes. We see him without any eyes because he's always wearing those mirror sunglasses, and then finally at the end he loses those sunglasses, and Luke pulling away in the ambulance at the end or in the car at the end, they run over those glasses. So it's a really nice frame for the story too. The way that it's like it's set up is like it's this man against God is how the story is set up, and then he's finally won because the actions that he takes makes somebody else take an action, which knocks the glasses off this guy. Which it's just fun. I mean, this and they don't really hit it over the head. I don't think there is a shot that makes it happen, but they don't. There's not like a huge like swell of music. There's not a character who delivers a monologue about it. It's just like a thing that we recognize as part of the story.
Yes. It's literally you. I think it symbolized the breaking of the order that
Yeah,
was there because Luke got out. Luke
he
won.
yeah, see, and this is you said you were depressed at the end, but like for me this is a story of hope. Although I'm kind of a nihilist, so I don't know if this is going to be as hopeful for anybody else. But like his big thing is that he is tired of existing because everywhere he exists, he's expected to be like entertainment or carry the interest of other people or be this world changer in some way. And to him it's exhausting to be this person. It's exhausting for him to be the type of person who is never he's always bucking the system even though he doesn't mean to. He's just casually going about his life casually bucking the system, and that's the type of person he is, and he's just asking for a break. And so when he does get shot and killed, spoilers at the end of this movie, when they he finally that's the tragedy of it. To me, I'm like it's the most hopeful thing that happens. That's like the one promise that we get, that like we get to struggle in our time here on Earth, and then also we finally get to take a break and we don't have to do it anymore after a while. Like it's worthwhile to do it now because after a while we don't have to. And so I don't know. That's for me for Cool Hand Luke. Why like I'm just like damn. Um, yeah, do the earth shaking while you can shake the earth, and then sit the fuck down and let somebody else do it. Uh, you know. Uh, anyway, we'll get to that. We could talk about that more at the end of the review. Because what happens right after that, you see the man with no eyes, and then you see the car pull up to the prison camp, and immediately the dogs are barking, which is another foreshadowing of the events that are about to come. Right? Like they set up this that they have these animals for tracking them, and they already smell the fresh meat. Right? They already sense that they're going to be on the run, and I just think it's so cool the way that they all those dynamics are set up within the first couple of minutes of the movie, and again, not spelled out. They call out the fact that exists there, that there's this man who can't be stopped. There's a force that like really restricts people's freedom. There's a man with no eyes who's running everything, and there's the hound dogs that are always going to be chasing after you. And it's just like bam, 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 bam. So you get set up in this world, and you know what's going on. And again, this isn't really spelled out through dialogue. It's all visual storytelling that like sets that up, and that's why I think Cool Hand Luke. It's
That the amount of visual storytelling that was done in this movie, I can appreciate like the effort they took to do this. They didn't just rush a movie. They wanted a movie that meant something, and that's why they took their time with it. I think one of my favorite characters was George Kennedy.
Is George Kennedy Dragline? He's in the
Yeah,
Police Academy
for the
movies
car.
also. Yeah,
I know.
I
Is he in the Police Academy movies?
I think he is. He's in some spoof cop movie, and I think that's the
The
one.
Naked Gun.
What's that? Naked Gun. Yeah, that's right. He's in Naked Gun.
Gun.
Yeah, I love Dragline as a character. I love his performance in this movie. It's really iconic, and again, it's so funny. We'll get into that the hierarchy in just one sec because we're about to set up how it all goes down. Um, we also because one of the characters that we meet we're about to get into. I just want to make sure that we don't miss this. The other character who comes in with him is Harry Dean Stanton, who everybody should know because he has 211 IMDb credits. And this is early on in his career. He's been doing some TV and stuff like that, but he's not recognized as the character actor that we know him as today. Um, and so he's very young. But he's the one who he gets taught the lesson is taught on him. You call the captain captain. You call the rest of us boss. Um, and Yeah, if you don't recognize his face, or if you don't recognize his name, you'll definitely recognize his face. Um, and
Oh
he
yeah,
he worked. I think he's dead now. I think I looked it up. But he worked up to the time
yeah,
of.
he died in 2017.
Yeah, I think that his last credit is like the end of 2016 or something like that. Like your man was working quite a bit. And with his performances are always they're just so they're exactly what they need to be. He never feels like he's taking up too much space, and then also he's delivering exactly what is required. And I appreciate him in this one too. He has a great singing voice too. He does a couple of numbers, like "Ain't No Grave." He sings, and there's another one too that he sings in the middle of the film, and it's him. You're watching him play the guitar and singing, and you gotta appreciate that. Uh,
Yeah, I when I heard "Ain't No Grave," all I could think of was, and Johnny Cash remade it so many years later.
yeah. And it's a classic that he's doing it. It's also really poignant at that time because he is digging essentially a grave. They are trying to kill him at the moment that he's digging that. But yeah, just that they used his voice in that movie, and then he does singing credits. Like I noticed that he's the voice of the lion Care Bear in one of the movies. Yeah, and I was like the lion-hearted Care Bear, and I was like, that's fun. That's fun that he got to do that. Um, you get to meet the captain at this point, who he says that he can be real nice or he can be real mean. It all just depends on their performance and what they do. Also, you get the backstory of Luke at this time, where you find out that he did really well in the army. He got to the rank of sergeant, and then by the time he left the army, he got busted back down to private. And then Luke says something that's really poignant to his character, is that he was just passing time. And so you find out more of
Love
this,
that. I was just trying to pass some time.
like I was just passing time. Um, and because it's setting up the story, like they sum up real quickly what you're about to see. They're basically acting like the Greek chorus here. Like, what are we going to see in this movie? Well, Luke's going to become real prominent and loved by everybody, and then basically get knocked down to private again, and then just like he's just passing time. Because for him, that's really what it is. It's just another thing to do in the course of his life. Um,
Yeah,
th-
like he literally isn't taking anything seriously. He's trying to get by with his time, but he doesn't like the way the hierarchy is. So he decides to do what he knows how to do best. He excelled. He
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 just
he rose to the top. And
he
then much like he knows how to do best, he crashed to the bottom again.
Yeah, and it's for a really good reason. I'm going to actually say that till we get to that point because I want to talk about it more, and I want more of the context when we talk about it. Because let me finish the setup real quick, or let's just finish the setup real quick. Because what happens right at this point is that not only do we find out that he was just passing time in the army, but we find out how it's going to happen here in this story, and it's told in such a way that we think it's just like random information. But when you look back at the story that's told, you see that it's to let us know because he says, "Hey, if you, I can be real mean or I can be nice," and then he says that. If you get rabbit in your blood, you're going to get, and take off for home, you're going to get a set of chains. And if you do it again, you're going to get a bonus set of chains. And so we see that like right away. They spell out what's going to happen in the story, but not in a way that you think you're going to that you like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. You never really expect that, but they tell you from the beginning what's going to happen. That's why I think that this story is so great. Like because they give you everything to see, and then you see it happening in real time. Um, and not only that, right after that, you see them pass the solitary shack where Luke spends a lot of time in afterwards. And the thing that kind of triggers the whole event that makes him finally turn rabbit, basically, right, is getting put in the solitary shack. And so, like, all these things, again, they're just like, it's like bam, 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 right? Set up. Sorry, one more time.
Said it's really funny. The reason they put him in the solitary shack is in case he turned rabbit, but in reality, that's what caused him to turn rabbit.
See, and
You
that
know,
okay, yeah,
his
you're getting into it now. So let's talk about it. See, the thing is, he was never really trying to be a rebel, right? Like this is not like Luke's a dude who bucks the system, just because he wants to or he's bored, right? The reason that he does it is because he's treated unfairly he's punished for no reason. Like he as we see, we'll get into the relationship with his mom. He doesn't care about his mom. Like he doesn't have any kind of feeling about her whatsoever. He calls her Arletta, right? Like he calls her by her name the whole time. And so like he doesn't really have like that kind of relationship with her, but they assume that he does, and so they punish him because they assume that he's going to do something and he doesn't actually do the thing. And so now he's like, why should I follow your rules at all if I'm just going to be punished just for what you think that I'm going to do, right? And so this is what like sets off the whole thing for him. And so it's like, he's like, yeah, you have the power over me to punish me, but like you're like being completely unfair. And this is where I think that Luke is probably neurodivergent, is because this sense of justice, right? Like for him, he's like, I don't deserve this punishment. I don't deserve to be. Like there's no reason for me to be here. I'm out. I'm a dip. Um, but again, just me. But like, yeah, right. Like that's what sets it off for him.
yeah, it was literally okay. You're basically saying I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna fucking do it.
Right.
I'm gonna do
You
it.
think I'm gonna do it?
You're gonna regret
Yeah. You're pushing me to this, even though I've given you no reason to dislike me. I've always followed the rules. Then I may as well. If you're gonna punish me like that, I may as well. Um, and not the smartest thing for sure, but Luke, I mean, he's an intelligent person, but like, I don't know if he's socially smart like that. It doesn't, because it just doesn't make a difference to him. Like, the next thing that we see that comes up is the problem that Luke has with all of society, and we can get into it if you want to, um, but. There's two things that happen like right back to each other. Carl the floor walker breaks down all the rules of why you could be put in the box, right? All these rules, and they're really arbitrary.
it.
No, no,
If you smoke in the prone
in the prone
position,
position
you
in that, yeah,
get a box.
not in the box. If you don't put your top sheet on the bottom sheet and the bottom sheet on the top sheet, you get a night in the box. You can't sit with dirty pants on the bed, or you get a night in the box. If you lose your spoon, you get a night in the box. Just yeah, he just runs down all these super specifics, that are just like it's like what ridiculous, like ridiculous specifics of like all these things that like are just ordinary sort of like human stuff that you'll get a night in the box. And then by the time you get to the end of his monologue, like Luke's like, yeah, a night in the box, and then he's like, you're not going to be a hard case, which again, foreshadow, which is fantastic. But then right after that, we see that I'm sorry, Dragline does the same thing. He starts to say, "Hey, you better shape up hard and fast if you're going to be on this crew." And then they like call out Luke. They're playing some cards, and he's like, "Are you gonna do it?" And he's like, "Nah, I haven't really heard anything worth listening to at all. Just a lot of people with a lot of rules, right?" And I think this is the thing. This is the thing that gets like Luke more than anything else is that he's like, "You're all just like regular people, and then you just make up these arbitrary rules about how things are supposed to be." But like they don't make any sense. They're just just rules, and it's just another person saying just some more rules. And that's actually it comes down to later why Dragline eventually George Kennedy's character respects him. But like that's also the problem that every other like hierarchy over him has a problem with him is because he's like you are just literally making up rules, and they have no rhyme or reason. They're just the stuff that you've decided is important.
Yeah, the amount of rules that they have for these men that like even just the counting off, they have to count off themselves one by one, like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That get on my nerves. There could be no fucking consistency to what number you are.
Well, also
You
they,
know,
yeah,
where you are in the lineup at that
you
day.
just, yeah, you just
It's
have to
like,
say the number after the number of the person in front of you, right? Like it's not that you're given. I mean, and he is. I think his number is 37, but he never calls up the number 37 at any point. He's just one of these 50 guys that's here. There's another thing that you see in that scene about the rules, like after Carl the Walker breaks everything down, and then they're all supposed to know that they're supposed to go get the beans after the bell goes off, although he never mentioned that to them. But he kicks a dude for not moving fast enough, and it sets up the same idea that is Luke's problem too, is that you'll get punished for not knowing what the rules are, even though they've never told you what the rules are. And you'll get punished if you didn't follow the rules fast enough, even if you were never told what the rules are, right? And so again, it's just like, and even sometimes if you're following the rules, you'll still get punished. And that's the thing that we see that happens with Luke in this movie, is that you can do nothing wrong and you can still be punished for it.
yeah, like most of the time he's just punished to be punished, and that's just. I'm like, I don't know how prisons work nowadays, but I would hope it doesn't work that way.
Well, yes and no, but because this is the thing I think that's so poignant about Cool Hand Luke. Like the thing that like it's true. You could watch this movie in 50 years. You could go back in time and you could show this to someone in the Roman Empire, and it would still be true. It's because it's true about humans. Is that nothing, no rules in society have ever made any sense. It's just the stuff that we agreed on that seems to work the best, right? And that's the thing. That's why for a lot of neurodivergent people, it's so hard to figure out what's going on and how to deal with them. Is because it's just stuff that people have agreed on. Any tradition or any organization that you walk into is always just an arbitrary set of rules. And I'm not saying that they're bad. Most people they come to some agreement about what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, Carl the Walker is laying down, the floor walker is laying down what it makes his job easier. But like if with no context, you don't have any way to figure that out. There's no way that you could pick what would work and what would not.
Yeah, it's really a Lord of the Flies situation
It's a yeah
when
that's
it comes down to it.
Well, and that's a great example, right? Like Lord of the Flies is like I forget the author right now. Golding, I think, is the guy. But that he's pointing out that like all of society is formed this way. That like we're all in a Lord of the Flies situation, whether we like it or not. Is that it's just people who are there longer, or the people who have agreed on something, or whatever animal ability has has driven them to behave the way that they are. Like that's the situation that we're always dealing with, is humans just coming up with stuff. We do get to see
Science.
the next day they go out on the road crew. It starts off with them, some guy gets thrown through, around in the truck because he doesn't know what seat to sit in because somebody has claimed a seat that he didn't know before the case. Another guy is tricked. It might be the same guy, but he gets tricked in paying $1 for this broom job that doesn't exist because they decide to mess with this guy, and he gets messed with because he doesn't know what the rules are and how it works. He actually gets in trouble with the guard. He gets put in the box later because he was trying to tell the guard that he made a deal with this other guy, even though there was no deal to be made. Um,
I thought that was complete and utter bullshit. Like,
Well, of
don't
course,
do that.
of course, like that. Yeah, you shouldn't. But like, it's just kind of like spelling out the same way that rules are arbitrary. That like you can, that people are taken advantage of just because they don't know the situation, and that happens across the board. It happens on all the levels of the hierarchy.
I know that.
And
I
then
know that all too well.
yeah, right. And also, you see that the job that they have is really, really hard. They're out in the sun so much so that a dude passes out on the first day, and he's thrown in the truck, and they couldn't give a fuck. I mean, this dude could die of a heat stroke. They don't care. They're gonna treat him like garbage. They just pile him up in there. He's not punished for it. Thankfully, the other guy's punished for it. But you see the contrast that happens here is that weakness is not punished, but talking back and questioning the rules is. And that's what happens. And also, what you see, what happens to Luke is that he's working really hard, and the guy's telling slow down. You're not going to make it through the day, and then he does make it through the day. And then as he's so tired and he's worked hard all day, he's having trouble climbing into the truck. He gets kicked. I mean, just taking too long, even though it has a really reasonable reason, really reasonable explanation for why he is tired.
There's no compassion for
Well, yeah, well, then also he
anyone in this group.
he did a good job. Like that's the thing. He was working harder than everybody else. That is why he's more tired. And but he's punished for it, right? Like so like, but not that he should be rewarded, right? But like should he be kicked, because he's tired for working hard? Like that's the type of situation that he's in. But yeah, definitely no compassion for his situation. Uh, when they but the thing is that you see is that the guy who passed out in the back of the truck, he just basically, they're glad that he didn't die on the road, but the guy who did question him gets put in the box overnight, and this is where we first see a person getting put in the box, the taking off your clothes, the white robe, the two pails, two buckets thing. And the guy who did it to him, he's like, "Oh, I feel bad. It's just supposed to be a joke." Draglion's like, "Hey, it's not because you played the joke on him. It's because he sassed a free man. That's the problem." And again, it sets up what the problem with Luke is going to be too. Is not that he's doing anything wrong necessarily, but he's questioning a person who has rank over him, and that's why everything happens to him.
Kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean it is, and I think again this is why you could show this in the Roman Empire, or you could show this in the far future, and it's going to be the same problem that humans have been dealing with. You remember last week where we watched the Kind Hearts and Coronets, and I was like, the main problem with this movie is that it doesn't have something that everybody can empathize with.
This movie does.
This is the exact opposite. Yeah, I don't think you have to know the context of the American South when there's chain gangs. Right? I don't think you need to know that to get this movie, because what it does is this human element of you can't question authority, and there's always going to be a boss who wants to prove themselves over you. And there's always going to be a person who they don't get it, or they're just indifferent to it. And that's going to be, that squeaky wheel is going to be the one that gets punished. And I think that that is across society. You could watch that in any culture. You could watch that at any time. I think anybody could get this movie, and that's what I love about this movie is it has just that like very human element.
It's timeless.
Yeah, exactly, because it's about humanity and about the nature of humanity, and I think this is where you get really good stories, is when you're telling stories about how people behave and why they do the things that they do. This is also where we get the first conflict between Dragline and Luke, because he calls him out for defending the bosses. Like he's basically acting like one of them, because he's like, yeah, the bosses need all the help that they can get to this guy. We cut to the next day, and it's one of the most fun scenes in this movie, probably the woman washing her car, and all the men are like freaking out
Joy Harmon.
Yeah.
Joy Harmon. I'm sorry. I looked her up
Okay.
specifically.
A gorgeous woman. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
It's
If you read her description, the impressively endowed is how they describe her as impressively endowed.
I mean, and yeah, she's wearing like basically like just a tore up dress as she's washing her car. And it's to me it's funny. Like it is fun. I mean, it's fun. It teases the audience, but to me it's funny because she knows what she's doing. She knows she's fucking with the chain gang because the way that you see her looking at them like through her hair as she's drinking, the way that she's washing her car, which doesn't make any sense. Like she's rubbing her boobs on the car too to like wash it, which it doesn't make sense to wash the car that way. But it's just like it's just funny this idea that this woman who's in the middle of nowhere decides to get some entertainment by teasing whatever the 50 dudes who are out digging the ditch in front of her house. This is a great example to me of like there's some movies that are exploitative towards women with no reason, but this one is I think is really great because it's not she's empowered because she's the one taking the action to do it intentionally. So I think that is a really great way to do it, and then also it serves a particular purpose within the storyline of the movie, um, because afterwards they're back at the camp and Dragline is sort of going on and on, trying to like get all the men like jazzed up, and you can see fights are breaking out, like people can't sleep, they're like restless and whatnot. And then Luke calls him out. He's like, "Just forget it, man. Like you're just making it worse for everybody. Like you're pointing out the fact that they don't have this freedom." And this is what kicks off the both the fight and the friendship between Dragline is because Luke challenges him in this really cool, laid back kind of way. But then it's this event that leads to them boxing together, which proves the type of character that Luke is. And so, yeah, it's one of those movies that
I absolutely love the boxing match.
it's yeah,
I just
it's a
love.
fantastic scene. One final thought about the woman. So when I've seen this movie before, like I thought, like, could you cut this scene out? And that's a lot of this movie. I've asked that question: can any of these scenes be removed and you still have the same movie? And the answer is no. Like you can't remove the woman washing her car scene to make it like a clean film because you need this to inspire this fight that happens later. And so, yeah, I just think again, there's no wasted moves in Cool Hand Luke. There's no wasted narrative in Cool Hand Luke. Like every scene is important. But yeah, the fight, right? What's your favorite thing about the fight?
The fact that he's getting his ass
Just,
handed to
just
him, and he
Dragline as a
still
character is
gets
twice his size,
back up. Yeah, he still gets right back up
and
every time.
yeah,
I got to find that speech from one of the Iraqi movies. It's not about how many times you can get hit, and hit back. It's about how many times you can get knocked the fuck down and get
get
back
back
up.
up. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love because this really shows Luke's character, right? Like this shows what he does more than anything else. This is what proves like how he's gotten through his life, and then we see what happens to him too, and how that plays out with him as well. It also is what gains the respect from Dragline, the main inside boss of the prisoners.
Like you really see him gain that respect for him.
Yeah,
You literally see it on his face, just cross his face, like, huh.
yeah, there's a couple of fantastic moments, but yeah, one of the things is he throws punches that have no effect on this dude. Luke is throwing these punches at Dragline, they're having no effect on him whatsoever. He gets knocked down, he's bloodied. Everybody is telling him to stay down and just take his lick, and that's that. And he just keeps standing back up, and then to the point that he swings, Dragline ducks it because he hasn't been hit barely at all, and then he just like bows under him and picks him up and just like sets him down. He's like, just stop. And then when they're down both on their knees, he punches him again. Like Luke punches him again with the weakest fucking punch.
The weakest bitch ass punch, and he's just like,
And
knock him
then
the fuck out.
yeah, and then he punches him again. And he gets up.
Clean.
Yeah. And so like and then Dragline just like he walks away in disgust because like how do you beat a guy who won't give up? Like how do you win in this contest about a guy who won't give up? It's also important in the scene. Not only are the men watching this, but the guards are watching this, and the captain's watching this fight. So as the story continues to unfold, and they keep trying to break Luke in every way that they can, they still have this in the back of their mind that he cannot be broken because he will not give up. And that's why everything leads to where it ends up with him. That's why he gets killed at the end of the movie, is because they know that they cannot win. And that's actually what George Kennedy's character says at the end, is they knew that he had already won. That he was going to keep doing what he was going to do. He was going to be who he was. You couldn't stop the guy. There's a nice pull away shot at the end of the fight where it looks like it's either like one of those crane shots, or they use a helicopter shot, so it may have been a helicopter. But they pull away from the yard, and the crowd is dispersing, and Luke is just staggering around with his knuckles, and you see that he's won this match just by making the other dude quit. Um, you gotta love Cool Hand Luke. Uh,
I, Sometimes not giving up is the best way to win. I'm gonna be honest. That
I
is sometimes the easiest way to win a fight
I
is
would
to just not give
I
up.
would agree. Yeah, I would say that the people who get places in life is because they decided not to give up. They kept taking the lick, they kept taking the losses, and they kept pushing forward anyway. Um, who's the guy who invented the phonograph and then also the light bulb, who's credited for the light bulb? Um, Edison. Kind of a piece of shit as a person, but he's like, he's tested all these ways for the light bulb to work, and then he tested more. Like, it's not how many times you fail; it's that you keep going until you reach your goal. And I would agree, and that's why to me, Luke is a really an inspiring character. Even though he's tragic, even though he's an anti-hero, he's a really inspiring character
Right.
because of his nickname that comes up in the next scene. Actually, I'm sorry, you're about to say something.
I, that you know not wanting to give up, reaching your goal. That actually reminds me of a saying. My pastor told me, he's like, Aristotle was once asked, how do you reach Mount Olympus? Just keep walking towards it.
Yeah, you just keep walking to it. Yeah. Um, Knowing that there's probably going to be a
Exactly.
mountain range after that mountain range, and there'll be another mountain range after that mountain range. But the way that you get to Olympus, or the way that you achieve anything, is you just keep going. The only way that you can lose is by giving up and accepting defeat. In my opinion, for sure. Um, we see them finally. He's cool with everybody now. Like after this fight, they're all in the evening having their cold drinks and they're playing cards, and he's just gambling with them. He's just gambling their heads off. They're betting all like nickels and quarters, and he's kicking in a dollar. And he's just like kicking in a dollar. He's got everybody's attention because he's just kicking in a dollar. And he finally gets everybody to fold, and they take a look at his cards and they find out he has absolutely nothing. And he's like, he beats you. He beats you with nothing. He beats you with nothing, just like he beat me with nothing. And then Luke says the iconic line, which to me, this has been, I think I mentioned in the last episode, this has been one of the motivations to me throughout since the time that I've seen this movie, is that sometimes nothing is just a really cool hand. When you have nothing, you have nothing to lose, right? When you have nothing, it doesn't matter what the outcome is at that point. Like having nothing is not a terrible place to be, because from this point all you can do is go up. And that's where he gets his name. That's the name of the movie, Cool Hand Luke, and that's why they end up calling him that. It's also interesting because earlier on in the movie they had mentioned that nobody has a name on the chain gang until Dragline gives you a name, and then he actually names himself. Because he says this iconic line, Dragline picks it up and he calls him Cool Hand Luke, and that's where everyone else calls him that from there on out. But unlike the other guy, I forget, they call him something else. The one who passed out, he got a nickname, and the guy who got put in the box, he got a nickname, and they called him out in the movie. But Cool Hand Luke actually, because of the things that he did, he got to name himself, which I think it's the thing that's like really true about him, and then about the type of people who do this, is that he's not defined by other people. He defines who he is, and he's the one who changes the world because of it.
I would have to agree with that statement. I may have nicknamed myself the autistic Spitfire, but there's a lot of people that are like, you are a bit of a Spitfire.
Right, yeah,
Like, so it's
exactly.
an appropriate moniker. It's an appropriate moniker for me.
He's definitely, yeah, you get to, yeah, and I think people who are like this, who aren't looking for the approval of other people, who are like the type of world changers, that they do get to name themselves, because they take on the world in their own terms. And I think that's kind of what the point is, with him doing that in that way. I think that they did that intentionally, to make that point. Like he gets to do that. We are gonna gloss over real quick. We'll kind of speed run, the thing that happens next, where he meets his mom. To me, this kind of is a lot of exposition. This is one of the scenes that I wished was maybe a bit shorter, but I do love the dialogue in it. So I wouldn't cut this scene altogether from it. But we get to see that Luke's been like this his entire life. That the reason that he is the way that he is that he's tried to go the straight and narrow route, and it wasn't for him. It wasn't who he was. It was so not who he was that even the person who was in love with him took off with somebody else. His mom says that when he was trying to be a respectable person, he was boring as hell. And then at the end of it, we find out that she's giving the farm that she owned to his brother, because it's not something that she says she's never felt any love for his brother, and so because of that, she owes him that. And then we get the resentment from his brother, when he gives him his banjo, and he hands him this banjo. There's no love between the two of them. They never even said hi to each other or anything like that. There was nothing that was going on, and then he goes, "You got nothing to come back for it. Like, you just like stay away from me and my family." It's just, yeah. So like,
Yeah, I would have, if it was me, I would have nutted up and might have ended in, might have been in the box.
well, so for him too, like he's kind of like he's done with his family. Like I said, he's calling his mom by her first name. He like just takes the banjo, doesn't have any sort of like love for him in that way. Um, Even when he says goodbye to her, she goes, "Laugh it up, kid, because you'll make out." And then the dialogue right after that is his nephew asking him, "Uncle Luke, are you gonna get chains?" Which is interesting, right? Because again, this is foreshadowing that like the reason that he gets the chains is because of his mom's funeral, which is directly related to the event that we're watching right now. Is his mom says, "Hey, by the time you get out, I'm gonna be dead." It's gonna be over with, and it's the her excessive smoking. Is probably where it's from. They don't really spell that out, but she's coughing a lot and she's chain smoking cigarettes, so it's a guess.
Well, being that she's an old film actress, I'm guessing she smoked cigarettes throughout most of her movies. So,
It could be. I don't think that the actress is the mother of Cool Hand Luke. But yeah, no, like I
I don't
think
know.
I'm sorry.
I'm just making a joke.
I would, yeah, I would.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The amount that they portray the old actress smoking, I'm like, if this character smokes this much, she probably emulated a lot of what she saw growing up. She smoked a
Okay.
lot of
I got you.
cigarettes,
Yeah, I got you.
and
Uh,
it's kind of like the whole popularity thing. We emulate what we find popular or holds a status, and so we emulate that from a young age.
yeah, and she probably
Like
has
me,
been.
always, I always wanted to be the cool, smart guy from the faculty. The cool, smart, edgy kid, yeah,
Right,
that
fair.
that was doing
Dude, we got to watch the faculty. Actually, I
basically
think this is
just
the second time we've
acting for.
mentioned the faculty as a movie. We should definitely watch the faculty and review it at some point.
I just watched it the other day. I just watched it the other day, and I'm like, oh, look at cute and chubby Usher.
Oh my God, I forgot. Okay, gotcha. That we should definitely, yeah. Anyway, uh,
Yeah, we need to watch that. Yes,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I have I have a knack for diverting conversations.
That's okay. There's a little bit more of this movie to get through, and we are running a little bit short on time. That's the only reason I'm like, all right, let's drive back. But I did add the faculty, and we will be watching that in the future. Although it looks like it's probably going to be about 4 months from now or longer. So, um, anyway, the next thing that we see is his rise of popularity, and we can kind of hit the events back to back to back. Because what happens is they go to Tara Road, and Luke decides that he's not going to just put up with how long it takes to tar the road, but instead inspires all the men to move faster and tar the road faster. I think it's a really fun scene. The guards are really confused, so instead of taking this hard task, he turns it into a fun game for them, and they finish the road 2 hours before it's supposed to be done. And so what happens is that they get to take a break at the end of the day instead of working, backbreaking work all day and then having to go do more tomorrow or whatever. So like gets to become the hero in this way. Um, right after that,
Actually, really
yeah, it's a
like it.
fun scene, right?
I've never seen Tar work look so fun.
And it's just and so it's a thing that like the reason that he's a world changer, right, is that he's defining whether or not this is going to be fun or not. He's the one who's deciding, how what his response is to the situation, and that's what makes him distinctly different. Is he's not taking it lying down; he's choosing his response to it, and that's why he gets the respect of everyone around him. Um, Later in the next scene, right after that, and this is a long sequence that occurs to watch this all happen. And it's fun, but we can kind of gloss over it too. But you mentioned that he's like he's talking about how Dragonlight's talking about how Luke could eat anything. He can eat so much he can out eat anybody. And then Luke just casually says he could eat 50 eggs, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, you can't eat 50 eggs. That's not a thing that can happen." And then they all decide to start gambling on it. Dragonlight starts running as a syndicate. Babaluga starts taking all the bets. They get Coco gets the paper. They start taking it all down to get all the money. And then we see Luke go through the challenge and training for it, and then eating the 50 eggs. And then we have a very iconic shot of after he's eaten the 50 eggs, everyone's collected their money or lost their money. They all go off their separate ways, and they leave Luke laying on the table in the crucifix position. And this is again foreshadowing about how he's a Christ-like figure. That he comes to make a change. He comes to inspire people. He comes to be a world shaker, but will ultimately be abandoned by everybody once they're done with him. And he's just lying there. It's like, I mean, just classic. They have an overhead shot. His arms are laid out both sides. His legs are crossed. He's wearing just like a loincloth of his shorts. It's he's the Christ figure. And it's this thing that like even Carl the floor walker, who is supposed to be a hard ass, but he's in on the bets. He's the official timekeeper. The cook, who's also the dog boy, he's also in on it. He's the one who's supplying the eggs. And so Luke has become such a prominent figure that everybody is okay with him. Um, he also he's getting to this point where he's so casual with everybody, that there's a snake in the grass, and he goes and snatches it up so that Godfrey can shoot it. And he smiles up at Godfrey, the man with no eyes, and he says, "Man, you really can shoot." And Dragline has to warn him. He's like, "Hey, you're getting a little bit, you can't talk to free men like that. You can't just do anything you want to. Even though everybody is okay with you, you're kind of a hero among us. You're a world changer, and everybody loves you. Um, but it's just you go too far when you mess with the man with no eyes." Um, and
I
then
always I love that they. So Godfried is blind.
no, he's not blind, but it's the fact that you can't see his eyes. You can't see what he's thinking.
Okay, I'm like, you know, so basic. they call him the man with no eyes because all you see is your reflection in
Yeah,
his glasses.
and it's a metaphor for how people treat God, right? That's really what Godfrey, who Godfrey is, as this metaphor, is, like what you see is yourself. When you look up, what you see is what yourself. And they drive this point home more because what happens next is there's a rainstorm, and right, they're like, hey, come get out the rain, and then God. And then sorry, Luke starts yelling up at God in the sky. And he's like, you can't challenge God like that. He's like, you still believe in the big bearded boss? You think that he's watching? He's like, aren't you scared of dying? He's like, oh yeah, he can have this life anytime he wants. Let me just know you're up there. Love me, kill me, hate me. Just let me know. And then he's like, but here I am, just standing in the rain, talking to myself, right? Again, the man with no eyes, right? Like we put the God in heaven, we put the bosses up on their thrones, like we create the hierarchy. Like there's no inherent hierarchy, there's no inherent rule that's correct. There's no like religion or law that is inherently correct. It's just like us agreeing to things, and that's kind of what that's why Luke shakes things up, is because he just questions those things just existing. He questions them.
I question my religion a lot.
Yeah.
If my church actually knew how much I questioned it, they'd be like,
And
"People need help."
yeah, well, and that's the I mean, and that's the thing, is that with religion or with politics or any structure of rules, is that this is I don't think that like neurodivergent people don't understand the rules, like the verbal, what they actually mean. I think they struggle with why those things exist, and they need to be proven whether or not they're valuable or not, right? Because at the end of the day, he's just one man among 50 men. He's just one man among these other people who claim to be in charge because they have guns and they're on the other side of the fence. Um, and we find out, exactly the flaw in the rule right after this, as we find out that Arletta dies, that his mom passes away, and for no reason, we discussed this already, but like for no reason of anything that he's done, he's put in the box and he's punished for it, because he could turn rabbit. And they actually put him in there for not
I
just
love that term, "turn rabbit."
yeah. And they put him there in not just for one night, but it's for like 3 nights or 4 nights. Like it's for an extended amount of time until his mom is in the ground, and and he says something to the boss. I think that I think I already mentioned this, but he says, just because you say that's your job doesn't make it right. Just because you've decided that this is what has to happen doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. And this is the thing that sours Luke to this whole thing. Like he could have done his time quiet, he could have done it fine, he could have gotten back out, but they decided to punish him when he hasn't done anything, and that's when he decides to really like to take a stand against them, to not bow down to the fact that they think that they're in charge just because they're the ones who hold the shotguns. And this is what starts. We can gloss over this too, because it is. I mean, they're longer actions that we see this whole event occur. But he escapes, uh, and then the dogs go after him. He runs so much, he runs crazy. He doesn't even try to get away from them. He just tries to outrun the dogs. He runs the dog so much that the dog dies, because the dog's been trying to find him.
I fucking love that. I'm like, he did what most people can't do when it comes to police dogs. He done killed it. He done made it die trying to
Yeah,
find his ass.
he killed Blue. Uh, and then he comes back. They put the chains on him. Um,
In front of everyone
yeah,
too.
in front in
Like
front of
they
they.
make it big.
Yeah, and then he actually, this is when he's like, they pull up, everybody's on the chain gang, he's taken out in handcuffs, they put the leg irons on him, and then the captain says they're here for your own good, and then he Luke lets him know that like he may have caught him, but he's not going to beat him, because what he says to him is, I wish you wouldn't be so good to me, Captain. And again, he's talking about being put in the box, right? Because that's what he said too. He said it's for your own good that you're getting put in the box because of your mom's funeral, right? Which is not fair to Luke because obviously he wasn't going to run. He didn't even care. But like, yeah, so he's like, I wish you'd stop being so good to him. The dude loses his temper, strikes him, and then he goes tumbling down the hill with his leg irons on. And then he says an iconic line that I heard a long time before, and it's been quoted a bunch, but it's from Cool Hand Luke. He's like, "What we've got here is failure to communicate." And then he goes on being like, "Some people you just can't reach." He wants it this way. He's gonna get it like that. And so we set up the two forces against each other. This guy thinks that he's in charge over human life, and he gets to play God, and so nobody gets to sass a free man because of their status. And then that's when Luke keeps trying to point out, like, your status doesn't change me as a person. I get to decide what happens to me. I get to decide my fate. Like, even though you can do anything that you want to me, I still have the ability to pick what I do with myself. And it just keeps escalating. He escapes again. They put the double irons on him, and then they decide to start breaking him. They're trying to break him to the point that he doesn't want to run anymore. And they start having him do impossible tasks. Like everybody has a lay-in for a couple of days, and so they have him dig this ditch, and then they have him fill it back in. And then they have him dig the ditch again, and then they have him fill it back in. And so, over the time of this whole time, the guys are all watching him because they want to see what he's going to do, if he's going to continue to put up with it. Because they understand, like the guards understand that if they let Luke get away with this, they're going to have anarchy inside the camp. Because if Luke can get away with it, then everybody can start pushing back. And so they have to break the guy who's doing it. It makes sense from, the control point of view that they do this to him. But obviously it started with their own fault. Like, they're the ones who started it.
Right. It makes no sense. It's like you're trying to break a monster you created. You created this monster, and as they often say, you made your bed, now you got to lie in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like they're the ones who did this, and then again, he's just letting him know that, like, you don't get to decide what I do with myself. You don't get to decide how I respond to the world or what I'm gonna do. And this is where we get to see the men start turning on him, because when he gets captured the second time and he's brought back, he sent a picture of him with two women. It was a fake. He stayed out for a little while. I think it's like a couple of weeks or something like that, and then he gets in another fight with a boss out there, and then they turn on him and get him turned back in. But they start running him and they start trying to break him. But the men have turned on him. That so to the point that when he's laying in the grave and he's just begging them not to hurt him anymore, stop hitting him. When he comes back inside and he's exhausted, he stumbles and he can't get into his top bunk, and he reaches up a hand for anybody, and nobody will help him. He can't get up by himself, and he yells at them like, "Where are you now?" Like, they were fighting over to see this picture of this man who won his freedom, and he's a big hero to them. But when he finally is broken and he can't go on any longer, they don't want anything to do with him anymore.
Right. It's hypocritical.
It's the thing that he calls out to them is that like, as this world shaker, people expect so much from him, but they don't expect to, like, he's entertainment for them. He's the one who inspires them. He's their, he's all this for them. But like, when he needs them, they aren't there for him. Right, that's kind of the thing that
Right.
is happening with him, and that's why he's kind of tired of it. Right, is because he has to carry the weight of everybody, and they have no expectations in return. He's the one who's going to be the one who has it together. He's going to be the one who is the world changer. We see that Luke gets taken into this position where he basically becomes the character they call Rabbit in the beginning. He's running all these errands for the man with no eyes, and he's playing the part well. He's acting just like that, a good dude. Luke, go fetch me the rifle. Luke, go water these guys down. And what happens is we see that he keeps getting the truck to do all these things, but then he gets in the third truck and he takes off again in that third truck. And this time Dragline is excited. He jumps on the truck with him. and they take off down the road. You find out that he's taken the keys from the other trucks, and so they can't pursue him. And so they get off down the road. They're hiding the vehicle on the truck, the transport on the side of the road. Um, and Dragline is so ecstatic. He's like, you really fooled him, Luke. You really fooled him. He's like, you were begging and you were asking, you're pretending to be broke so you could do this one more time. And then Luke looks up to him and he goes, "Man, I never planned anything in my entire life. Like they actually beat me." And that's what I love about him as a character too, is that he's okay with that. Like he's okay with losing. Like it didn't change who he was as a person. Like he was gonna lose, and then he was just gonna continue on with his life again. It wasn't that doesn't crush him. That doesn't stop him. He just continues to be who he is regardless. Um, then,
I actually enjoyed this sequence when they're running because Dragline comes clean. He's like, I only had a few more years on my sentence,
yeah.
but I saw you in that truck, and something told me to go with you.
Yeah, yeah, I lost my head, he says. Um, and then they split up because it's the same thing that happens before. Luke doesn't want to carry the weight of this dude. He doesn't want to carry the weight anymore. Like he's done doing that. And again, it's really interesting for him because we see that this is the thing that he's been dealing with his entire life. Is that like people they want to do what he's doing, they want to be a part of what he's doing, but he knows that when it comes down to it, they're not going to be there for him. And that's the thing that happens next is he goes into this church and he has this long dialogue with God. And this is the end monologue. For Cool and Luke. It really spells out who he is. And I think that he feels like the same way that he feels about God. Like the same way that he feels about people, he feels about God. Like he's supposed to do this great work, on among people. Like he's supposed to be an inspiration to people and whatnot. But when he needs God to be there for him, he's never there. And he says this. He goes. He walks in the church and he goes, "Anybody here?" And then he walks in and he goes, "Hey, old man, you home tonight? Can you spare a minute? It's about time we had a talk." He's like, "I'm a pretty evil fella. I killed people in the war. I chewed up municipal property, so I got no right to talk to you. But even so, you never dealt me any cards in a long time. It looks like you got it fixed, so I can't win. You made me like this. Like, where am I supposed to fit in? It's all these bosses, all these rules, all these regulations." He's like, "Oh man, I gotta tell you, I started out pretty strong and fast, but it's beginning to get to me. What have you got in mind? What am I supposed to do?" And I'm on my knees asking. And then there's this long shot is from the ceiling looking down at him as if God's looking down at him. And then he goes, "Yeah, that's what I thought. I guess I gotta figure it out on my own." And like this is the thing. This is why I love this movie. Is especially I mean because it
Right,
adds up to this.
you hear the utter defeat in his voice in this scene, and it's
Well,
actually kind of how.
well, it's that, and again, like I think I feel like Luke. It's not intentional. Like, they weren't like trying to write an autistic character, right? But I feel like he's like neurodivergent in that. Like he's like I'm the type of person that like I will point out when something is not fair. I'm the type of person who will be myself and people will rally around me and they want to be a part of the thing that I'm a part of until I need them or until I'm broken and then they want nothing to do with me. And then what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with my life? What am I supposed to do in that circumstance? What am I supposed to prove or anything? Um, and you get this is why for me too the end of this movie isn't the tragedy that it seems like because our hero has died, but like it's because he's gotten to the point that he's so tired of going through this again. Like it doesn't matter if he finishes his time, right? Because we know that he got out, we know that he got a job. This all happens off screen. We know that he got paid, but he just ran into more bosses out there. And no matter where he goes, he's going to keep running into more bosses. Um, And so like it's just it's in a person who is unique and apart, who thinks as an individual and doesn't define themselves by their circumstances or what they've got or what status they have, but like as an individual, that they're always going to be running into all these problems with everybody who demands that they respect the system that exists, right? And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, so like I get it. Like as the nihilist, I'm like, yeah, like nothing super matters because at the end of it, we all just get to take a break. And for me, like an optimistic nihilist, I'm like, yeah, that's why we do the things that we do. Enjoy the time that we have. Take as much action as we can, because you're just gonna run into problems wherever you're at, and it's gonna be over soon, right? Those are the things that you can get out of the situation.
I don't know. I was hoping for something more. What's the word I'm looking for? I was hoping for a better outcome for Luke.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
you
honest.
you you want it to be a happy ending for sure. Like you want it to be, but like I can't think of a conclusion that would be would tell would I don't know that is satisfying. You know what I mean? If you get the what is it, the Shawshank Redemption conclusion in this movie, where Andy does escape, and he's on the beach. Morgan Freeman finally gets out, and they run into each other. Um, I don't think it fits. I don't think that it fits for this character.
It, sadly, no. But I wanted to. You know what I wanted to see for Luke?
What's
I
that?
wanted to see him hook up with Joy Harmon. I wanted to see Luke have that happen. Okay.
He ends up down the street from the prison and with the woman who was washing the car, and they hide out. She keeps him safe for all that time. Although he wouldn't
I
fit
would
it.
have. I would have. It's not a realistic ending, but it's something I would have liked to see happen for the
Fair. I
character.
mean
Like I
that's
just want to
yeah.
see something
The reason we go to
good.
films, right, is not to see reality.
It happened.
Yeah, but to
Right.
see the fantasy play out. I hear that. He says what he says is, like, tell me what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to figure this out, and then Dragline shows up. And he comes in, he says, "Hey, just come back to the prison. They said they're going to take it easy on you and all this." And Luke knows that they're not, because he laughs at him and he's like, "Hey, it's not. They're not going to give us our old bunks back." He's done his third strike. He's wearing two chains. They broke him and he escaped anyway. They knew that he wasn't going to win. So he goes out. He opens the window, and he
No, he doesn't open the window. The window's like a whole glass pane. It's just sitting in there. He's standing there and he
yeah.
starts yelling through the window. He's like, "What we have here is a failure."
Failure to communicate. Yeah. And that's when Godfrey shoots
He
him.
doesn't even get to finish. He doesn't even get to finish the statement
Yeah.
before Godfrey shoots.
Just shoots him. And Dragline drags him out to where the cops are at. The police take him. The guards take him. Dragline attacks Godfrey. This is where he knocks off his glasses and punches our god figure, where he's mad about it. They decide that they are going to, instead of going to the prison, the regular hospital, which is the emergency, so that they could save him, that they're going to take him to the prison hospital, which is an hour away. And the guard points out that he's not going to make it if they take him to the prison hospital. The captain says, "It's not your responsibility. Get out of the way." Indicating that this is what he decided he wanted. This is what he's going to get.
Yeah, they determined what was going to happen before any of that, and I can only imagine how Dragline felt.
Yeah, it's
You know,
interesting because the story ends from his point of view because he is telling the final moments of Luke to the guards, to the guys who are in the jail with him. And he says that he had that smile up to the very end because he knew they knew that they would never beat him, that they couldn't beat him. And that's again, this is why to me this movie is not a tragedy, is because Luke may get shot and killed at the end, but he was never beaten. There might be bosses everywhere who are trying to beat you down with their rules and whatnot. But if you're the type of person who defines yourself, who is the one who takes the action based off of who you are as an individual, no matter what happens to you, you still can't be beaten, even if it ends up you getting murdered. It's the same reason that to me, like the Jesus story is not a tragic story, is because yeah, he got murdered for presenting the idea that we need to love one another, and that nobody, no single person outranks any other single person on the planet because we're all children of God. Um, that's the case, and even though he got murdered because that's not a tragic story at all, because that lesson has continued on across the planet since then. And actually, we find out for Dragline that this isn't the tragedy that you would expect it to be either, because what we see is he's on the chain gang and he's wearing chains, and we know that he's had extra time added to his sentence, but he's whistling at the end of the movie because he met Luke, that he had the opportunity to know this person. And I think what has happened to Dragline is he's been transformed by this experience also, where because he's met him and he's met a person who wasn't defined by his circumstances, but instead chose his own fate regardless, that now he has the ability to do that too. And I think that's why we see him in the beginning of the movie. He's under the bosses. He's like, he's requesting anything he can. He's being kind of a boss himself, but we see him whistling at the end of the movie because now we see that he understands that he can be whoever he chooses to be despite what's happening around him. Anyway, um, so there you go. That's the end of the movie.
I,
You have some wrap up thoughts?
I enjoyed this movie. I just didn't enjoy the outcome. I called my sponsor
Oh,
and I told him how I was feeling afterwards, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a rough one." I'm like, "You could have warned me."
oh,
He's
he'd
like,
seen
"I
it
didn't
too.
want to ruin everything for you." I'm like, "You fucker."
Yeah, no, that's that. Oh, so he knew that you're gonna watch Cool and Luke, and he was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I
I
can't."
tell him every movie I review.
Oh, right on. Okay, that's awesome. Um, oh man. So yeah, no, again, not the outcome you'd want, right? But it sticks with you, right? Like this is a movie that, like, yeah, it's you didn't sign up for nothing, right? Like it's got a story. It keeps you locked in.
Yeah, it really does. Like it. At first, I thought it was going to be one of those movies that drags on, but the more I watched it, I was like, this is actually really interesting. I'm getting invested in it. Okay, what did you have me watch, Skip?
Yeah, unlike last week's movie, Kind Hard Coordinates, which is a series of events that was hard to like empathize with, I feel like this movie in particular, you really do. That it is very much so that like you care about the characters, and that I think that's the reason that it doesn't drag, is because it's all character motivated. You understand why they're doing what they're doing. You understand the circumstances clearly, and you're just seeing how they're going to continue to behave with each other. And I think that's why it really works.
I really, I enjoyed this movie, but I really didn't like the outcome for Luke. I
Fair
wanted
enough. It is a
Luke,
tragedy.
but
We lose our
now
hero.
yeah, and I was like, am I in Greece? Why the hell is this a tragedy? He's like, but sometimes the movies we watch end up that way.
Yeah, and this is a fair point. I think that there's a lot of moves in Hollywood to tell movies that make people feel good at the end because they want to deliver that fantasy to the audience. And I'm glad that this movie was made when it was, because it was at this time where they were taking risk, or they were allowed to make movies that didn't necessarily leave people feeling good. And then also, it's not just that the movie makes you feel, it doesn't make you feel bad, but like it makes you think and feel
Real.
stuff.
It's real.
Yeah, it feels
It's
real.
a
Yeah. And it's not in the artsy, gritty sort of way that it feels real, but you're like, yeah, life be like that. Um, and so I really do appreciate that it's a different type of movie, from that perspective, right? That it doesn't give you the cheap ending, which I would agree. Like I think that if you could go for the up ending, the happy ending, where he shacks up with the girl, down the road, and that he stays there, and that they live happily ever after. I think that that's an ending that they could have chosen for this movie. Um, but yeah, I do really appreciate
But
the fact the reason it sticks with me is that. Say that again.
it it wouldn't fit with the rest of the story as much as I wanted it to.
Well,
It wouldn't fit.
I don't think it would have had I don't think it would have the impact that this movie does. Yeah, like I think that Cool and Luke that ends that way becomes like a forgettable film. And I think that choosing this ending makes it something that makes you sit back and go, at the end. And that's one of those things. Maybe it's not for everybody, but it's one of those things that I appreciate for sure about it.
I
Well,
enjoyed this movie overall.
yeah,
Overall, it was good.
and it is entertaining. I think some of the moments too, him running from the dogs, really entertaining, even though there's not a lot going on. The contest of eating 50 eggs is super entertaining. Again, even though there's not a whole lot going on in that scene, like the fact that they make so much of this real life moment of him eating 50 eggs. The fight scene, which is a fight that he loses, but he wins. There's no clear outcome at the end. Again, I think it's a really great scene, and it is entertaining to watch him do that. Um, Even though, again, it doesn't hit any of the normal ways that you would think that a fight should turn out, right? Like he should punch out the guy, or he should be completely beaten up, and it hits this middle ground where he is beaten up, but he still wins. Anyway, like I said, this is one of those movies. It's in my top three. I would be hard pressed to say what the other two are, but I would say that it is definitely within the top three of my favorite movies. Um, but yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up for this week. I'm Skip Marazzi, your host and friend here on a Cox and Space podcast. You can check it out, coxandspace.com. But I'm here with Dylan Farr, who is a stand-up comic in the Ypsilanti area. You can check him out on all of his socials.
Hi, you can catch me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok under Autistic Spitfire Comedy, and on Facebook under my government name, Dylan Patrick Farr.
So check him out, become a fan, and follow him there. Next week we're gonna watch another really cool movie, and that is the classic Cool World with Brad Pitt. So I hope that you are excited. Dylan, have you seen Cool World?
Isn't that the one with Hollywood?
Yes, yes, it is. And it's played by a very famous actress, but the movie is partly animated. So yeah, yeah, it's an adult animated film.
I've not seen it, but I'm interested in watching
You
it.
haven't seen it? Oh my God. Okay, yeah, no, this is a fantastic film,
Obviously.
a classic of the
Yeah,
90s.
I'm interested in watching it for research purposes.
So I'm looking forward to hearing your hot take on Cool World. But we will catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.